Hey, welcome to the Oakley Podcast, Trucking Business and Family. My name is Jeremy Kellett, Director of Recruiting here at Oakley Trucking, and I'm your host for this podcast. On this episode, got a guy coming back that's been with me several times, Lewie Pugh with Owner-Operator Independent Driver Association. He's Executive Vice President. He's come on several times and talks about some very important stuff that we need to know as an audience out there too, not just truck drivers, but all the general public and all our listeners out there need to listen to this and need to hear it. On this podcast, we don't do a whole lot of what I call news, but this stuff here is not really, I wouldn't call news. I mean, this is important stuff that's making a difference in everybody's lives. And that's why on this episode we're going to talk about stuff that's been happening to the non-domiciled CDL holders, and Louie's going to explain what that is and get into that a little bit. And also, they've been talking about this English proficiency rule, if I can spit that out. It's something that has been in place forever, just hadn't been enforced, and we're gonna talk about that with Louie. But first, hey. I appreciate you guys tuning in to the Oakley Podcast. We've got one more new episode coming up next week, and then we're going to take the holidays off. We're going to come back sometime in January. We're going to take about 4 or 5 weeks off of doing new episodes. We're going to rerun some of our favorite ones that people like during that time, and it's going to give us a little bit of a break to gather things and come up with some new content and get some stuff recorded. And I think right now, which I'll let you know for sure next week, but right now I think we're talking about coming back on January the 14th, Annabelle? January the 14th would be our first new episode. But hey, I encourage you to watch these through December because they're really good. As you go back and look at some of the stuff we talked about, I mean, they still pertain to things today. So it's really good. Go back there and check it out. And as always, our sponsors, man, I say it every week, but I get compliments on these guys every week from Aero Truck Sales, Keith, and the job he does and how we've been partnered up for years. Great place for you to get a starter truck, really, a good used truck with warranty. Great place to do it with Keith. And then our local guys here, Central Arkansas Truck and Trailer, they specialize in owner-operators and taking care of them, keeping their trucks running and getting them back on the road. So check out our sponsors. Give me some feedback, too, if you use them for sure. So let's get on with Lewie Pugh here with OOIDA. Lewie, what's going on today, man? You doing okay?
I'm doing good. I guess I need to go to work at Oakley, get like 2 months off for the holidays. That's real living. You big TV video stars, social media stars.
Hey, well, it gives me a break, man. Coming up with stuff all the time. I got to take a little break in the action because we didn't know. A lot of these podcasts, Louis, do seasons, and I'm like, I didn't know anything about any seasons and episodes and all that. We just do one a week and go with it. So
right, yeah, exactly. Like trucking, there's no season. Yeah, it's just you work.
You just work all the time, man. What's happening what's the latest at OOIDA?
Oh, things are good. Of course, right now with the economy and trucking, things could always be a little bit better. But people are seeming to hold their own. There's a lot going on in Washington now. We had this little shutdown for a month and a half or so, and folks are back up. It's an interesting time in D.C. for trucking. This is a highway reappropriation season. It comes along every 4 or 5 years, or 5 or 6 years, we get a new highway bill. So we were hoping by now that we would see kind of what's coming out of the House Transportation Infrastructure Committee, which that's where trucking bills pretty much come to be born or die or fought or whatever, and that's who decides the funding and all this stuff for a highway. And we thought we would see that by now or by the 1st of December, and unfortunately with the shutdown, we're probably looking at the 1st of next year till we kind of get an idea and a taste of what's on there. So when we do, I'll be more than happy to come back and talk to you about it. But but in the meantime, we've been doing a lot of work on the regulatory front with FMCSA. There's been a lot of between non-domicile CDLs, English language proficiency, and some of this stuff that's been going on, speed limiters and some broker transparency, all these kind of things. We've been working with FMCSA. Of course, we have a new administrator. Derek Bars finally got confirmed a month or so ago. I finally got to meet with Mr. Bars officially. So that was good. And of course, I know Mr. Bars from previous. We were on CVSA and served at CVSA together. And I think he'll be good for the industry. I think he's going to be a great administrator. Nothing against the administrators of the past, but I think he'll be one of the best ones we've had since my tenure at OOIDA and working with these folks, because he's got an enforcement background. He knows trucking and stuff. He never drove a truck, but he understands it and stuff. And he's just a very nice person, likes to listen to people and understand. He's been out to some trucking events, truck shows, and talked to people. And even before he was confirmed on an unofficial, just kind of talk to truckers, hear them out. So, some good things. I feel like DOT is listening now. If we get the folks on Capitol Hill listen, we'll really be getting somewhere.
Yeah, that's a challenge in itself there, but you work good at it. You're good at it, Louie. You do it all the time.
Get bullshitter,
man. At Aero Truck Sales in Springfield, Missouri, they take the hassle out of buying and selling semi-trucks. No matter the manufacturer, the style of cab, or the type of engine under the hood, they can make you a fair offer on your semi-truck with no games or gimmicks. They carry trucks from all the major manufacturers in the trucking industry and perform a thorough inspection of every truck on their lot to ensure safety and quality and give you confidence that you're getting a reliable truck that will last you for years at a price that you can afford. Aero has partnered with Oakley Trucking and the Oakley Podcast for years and are proud to provide our owner-operators with trucks that meet Oakley's qualifications and each owner-operator's specific needs. So whether you're a first-time owner-operator or just looking for a change of scenery, give Keith Wilson a call at 573-216-6047 and let them know you heard it here on the Oakley Podcast.
Let's start with this non-domiciled CDL holder. And let's talk a little bit about that. Explain to the listeners what that exactly is, Louie, like you're talking to the,
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of turned into a much bigger thing than we thought. I think a much bigger thing than anybody thought. OOIDA never really supported the non-domicile CDL. What a non-domicile CDL originally was set out to be was, say you got a kid in Arkansas or an adult or whoever wants to get into trucking. They get a job with, say, a motor carrier in Utah. They go out there, they go through the training and all this stuff. And then what can happen if that state does it, they can go ahead and test there and get their CDL in that state. Because if you're on a learner's permit, they're not really supposed to be driving back to where they came from or anything like that without a trainer. And then, of course, there's appointments, all this kind of stuff. So that's what this was started as. So that was sort of what a non-dom, you were just getting your CDL in a different state than what your residency was. We have never been a proponent of that. We feel like that plays into the fake driver shortage, and it just makes it, again, lowers the bar, makes it easier to get into our industry. And I know there's people who don't always agree, but we think to be a truck driver takes a lot of experience, takes a lot of skill, and it sure takes a lot of training, and we shouldn't be dumbing that down or making that simpler.
That's
if
right.
anything, we should be raising it up.
That's right.
And I think COVID showed us that with the amount of people. But unfortunately, in 2019, 2020, when this all got done, there's kind of loopholes in there where people from outside this country could come in here and get these things. And really, it was just sort of, the floodgates come wide open. We've heard all kinds of numbers tossed around. Up hundreds of thousands of these have been issued. I can't tell you how many there are. What I can tell you from what we know and from working with DOT and others is there's a lot of them. States don't always know who has them. They don't necessarily know who they gave them to, which is really kind of scary. Then they're also, depending on the state, they can be very, very hard, even for enforcement, to realize they are, because some states, they don't even say non-domicile CDL. Some MVRs, they don't even show up that it's a non-domicile CDL. So it's very tricky. It's very problematic. DOT asked states to quit issuing them. They started researching. Of course, we saw what's happened in California. California is the first of many states that it's going to come out or having these. They've sent cease and desist. The unfortunate thing that people don't realize with non-domicile CDLs, FMCSA doesn't really have any power to make states not issue them because licensing is a state thing. The power that FMCSA does have is they can hold back highway dollars or safety dollars, and that's what they're doing in California and what we've seen in California. Yeah. And of course, California just the other day came out and said that they're doing away with 17,000 of them that they've already figured out that are fraudulent or whatever, and they're canceling those. But we need to see a lot more. And again, there's a lot of other states that have these. And then, of course, we've had this court case that came out where some folks who have them have sued. Now the courts put a stay on the because DOT put an IFR and rule out, which is an interim final rule, government, their acronyms, but they put a rule out that states got to quit issuing these other than to U.S. citizens or to certain HB1 and 2 visas folks, which really what that amounts to is really not a lot, because those people that they have, the people that aren't from here, the visa people, is very, very small. They have to go through a lot of processes, including Bureau of Labor, to see if these people or there's even a need for them. Really, it's mainly for the ag industry. From what research we've done, if they had been following us all along, since 2009 until now, there's only been like 6,000 of these issued totally. So that's not really a big problem. Of course, now there's a bill in the House, Congressman Rouser from North Carolina, who leads the subcommittee on T&I of Transit and Highways and Transit Subcommittee, and which is where all trucking stuff is at. He has a bill out there right now which would codify or make it a congressional mandated law of what the IFR is on the House, which is what we need to see happen. Because anytime rules or regs or any of these things are done over at DOT, that's during that president's tenure. And what can happen, it doesn't always happen, it doesn't happen very often, but what can happen is we get a new president or new people, then they can change that. Somebody can petition it, it can be changed. I'll go into speed limiters. We've talked about this on your show in the past. Speed limiters are dead. Yeah. So they're dead for now. But we get a new president, we get a new administration, whatever. Somebody could repetition and we could have speed limiters again. That's why we have a bill in the House for speed limiters too. Because you want to make these things that are good like this a congressional mandate. Then it's so much harder because, as we know, it's very hard to get anything passed in Congress. Right. So if you can get something passed, it makes it really, really harder to get it brought back.
Well, I saw your video that you did, and I went to that website, the Fighting, what is that website? I don't have it in front of me.
FightingForTruckers.com.
Yeah. So I went to that, watched your video, and I actually did the support thing. It actually kind of fills it out for you, and you can write a comment down there and then submit it. And that's pretty handy. That's what everybody needs to do. Is what you're talking about, right?
Yeah, exactly. If anybody's interested in anything we're talking about today or anything else that OOIDA is doing on advocacy front or fighting for in D.C., it's all on fightingfortruckers.com. And as you said, you can fill out the information. You can find out who your lawmakers are, their phone numbers, whatever, if you want to call them. Or if you want to send a message right from there, it takes a minute or less. I said, and if you want to add a note, if you want to edit it, you can. As I tell people all the time, you can actually go on Fighting for Truckers. You can send a message to a lawmaker who can help you, hopefully will help you, but at least there's a potential. And the same amount of times you can put something on social media where there's no potential of anybody doing anything other than continue complaining.
So they found this loophole, I guess, that people out of the country can come in and go, hey, I can get a CDL. Or people, we've seen people that are giving them out illegally. We were people making up CDLs. We've seen that down in, I think, Florida and some other place where people actually got caught doing that. I mean, so but it's the responsibility of the company that if a company hires them, they're supposed to show proof of being a U.S. citizen.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it's too easy to get into trucking. And not only as a driver, I would say, but as a motor carrier as well. I mean, we don't really vet these people. They pay $350 or whatever to get their authority. They get some insurance, and they're a full-blown motor carrier. And we have people come into this country, unfortunately, and this has really gotten highlighted since COVID between all the freight fraud and trucking fraud, broker fraud, and all these different kinds of frauds that we're seeing out here. Chameleon carriers, all this craziness has been going on, and identity theft of carriers. But unfortunately, what happens and what I'm hearing and what we're seeing a lot of, these people, somebody comes in from overseas, they start a trucking company, they go back over and get people from that country, usually from third world countries or people that are pretty depressed, or, as far as living situations. They promise them the moon, they bring them over here, get them this, non-domicile CDL or some sort of unscrupulous fee, and just send them out there trucking. Then they don't pay them anything or pay them very thing. And they hold a threat over their head that you're going to do what we tell you, we'll send you back. And it's unfortunate and it's really unfair. I feel bad for the people that are caught up in this because they're just trying to better themselves. But I also understand, as well as most from driving truck, we have to have safety on our highways. And unfortunately, this is just one more way to put cheap labor behind the wheel of trucks. People, are profiting from other people. And we've got to quit putting profits in front of people and in front of safety.
Yeah, exactly.
And unfortunately, that's why we need to clamp down on this. This doesn't have anything to do where people are from or who they are. I mean, you can be the greatest truck driver in the world and not be from America. There's no doubt about it. But with that being said, you have to come here and do it the right way.
Yeah.
And if you're not doing it the right way, it's not safe for anybody, and you shouldn't be on the highways. And that's part of the reason, in my opinion, we need such stricter training standards, such stricter getting authority standards, bringing all this stuff up. Because to be perfectly honest with you, these people should have never, all these accidents we've been seeing, never got behind the wheel in the first place.
Right, and that's what's brought it all to the forefront. These accidents that have,
100%.
That's what's brought it to the forefront, and that exactly needs to be. It needs to be highlighted. I was watching, talking to you or watching you say something there on one of the videos or reading it, I guess, and Congress didn't even know about this stuff till you let them know. With the English proficiency and the non-domiciled, it's like what do you mean, Lewie? What are you talking about? I mean, you let them know that. They didn't even know that was happening.
Yeah, unfortunately, you're correct. I've testified 3 times this year, but the first 2 times, I think once in February and then again in March, this stuff got brought up. People just were dumbfounded looking at about all this stuff. And it's really sad and unfortunate that that's what happened.
Well, it's sad that it's got to cost people's lives to get attention.
Exactly.
Because now we're reacting instead of being proactive. We're reacting to a bad situation that should have never got there in the first place.
And I feel like we do that too much in trucking. In fact, that's one thing I brought up to Administrator Bars when we met. We've got to get past this being reactive and be more proactive in trucking. And that's how we're going to fix safety. Yep,
that's right, because we're talking about it today. We've been talking about it all morning here at Oakley is how to be proactive instead of reactive on some of these accidents. And you just have to – it's a profession. These people that are driving these trucks are professional truck drivers. They have standards they have to meet. They have rules they have to follow. I mean, they're a way notch above the general public driving, and four-wheelers out there. I mean, they're the ones that's got to be held to these high standards, and it comes with training. I mean, getting into the system. You can't just be able to print a CDL or pay money and get a CDL and start driving a truck. It's just not right.
No, it's not. And I brought this up in testimony. I bring this up at a lot of safety things. I attend different things all the time. We are in an industry where you can go out here on the street, find somebody sleep on a park bench who can't even spell truck. And in a month and a half, you can get them a CDL and make them a full-blown motor carrier in a month and a half. They'd be a motor carrier, truck driver, everything in a month and a half if somebody's willing to front the money. Yeah. And that's a broken system.
Bad.
I mean, it takes, I say this all the time, it takes 1,600 hours to cut hair in the state of Missouri to become a barber. But you can be a truck driver in a couple of days.
Yeah. Tell me that makes sense. Well, how is the English proficiency rule Why has it been brought to the forefront all of a sudden? And what are they actually doing about it?
Well, and that's another thing that, that's been on the books forever. That you have to speak English to drive truck. Unfortunately, we can argue a fact, but you can't test. You can test the written part in any language. You're supposed to take the skills test in English only. But unfortunately, there's some unscrupulous trucking schools out there that kind of let people do whatever they want in whatever language they want. And so what we've seen over the past few years is there becoming problems and enforcement are talking about with folks who can't read road signs, understand signs. Of course, as we all know, the world has changed with technology. There's a lot more stuff being communicated on the highways with these electronic messaging boards, whether it's construction lanes, whatever it is, there's lots more of that than what there ever was. It's not like we have the same 20 signs that we can learn and that's what you follow. And then of course you get into bridge weight ratings and high winds for bridges and all kinds of stuff like that. So, what happened in 2016, CVSA, Commercial Vehicle Safety Alliance, which sets the out of service criteria, they took the English, that used to be an out of service if you couldn't speak English. They took it out in 2016 at CVSA because the argument then was that the trucker could still communicate to the enforcement officer on a roadside inspection, either via translating service on a smartphone through his dispatch or something like this. Now, if I'm a cop, I still ain't crawling under no truck with some guy who's talking to me through his phone, but that's whatever. I still think it was crazy then, but whatever. That's what was decided. We, from listening to our members and enforcement and everything, we actually repetitioned CVSA this spring before their spring meeting, which was in New Orleans, asking for this to be put back into the outer service due to reading signs and being able to communicate with emergency personnel and stuff like that in an accident. Fortunately, we were able to get that through. So with all these things came together, and then as of, I think it was July 25th or 6th, it went back into the outer service and it could start being enforced again. And that's what we're seeing now. And, again, this doesn't mean you have to be able to speak to King English or anything like that. This is again safety. You just need to be proficient. You need to be able to read and understand signs. You need to be able to read and understand message boards. You need to understand when the Bay Bridge out there in Maryland, they have high wind warnings and, empty commercial vehicles that you can't drive across it. Or they changed the weight rating. You can't drive across that bridge because you're waiting. And that's the stuff that we were trying to address. And then, of course, God forbid, when something happens, as I try to remind folks, truckers haul everything from, socks to bombs. So it's real important that if there's an accident, that you can communicate very quickly. And that doesn't mean getting your phone out and all that kind of stuff with the interpreter. Very quickly to tell emergency personnel what you're hauling, what's on there, how they need to react, and how that needs to be handled. I mean, I'm sure you guys haul hazardous material. There's all kinds of stuff that goes right. And you have to be able to communicate that stuff immediately.
Yeah, and I mean, I've done it. I make sure that whoever we're leasing on can communicate effectively, because it can cause major problems if you can't communicate clearly, especially like accidents and stuff like that. You got to be able to communicate not only with each other but with everybody else too. And it's
100%.
Yeah. Is it? So is the maximum they get is just an out of service right now, or are they actually being taken off the road?
Well, if they get put out of service, technically, when they're put out of service, that driver can't drive that truck anymore. So that driver has to be removed from that truck, and a driver who can speak English would have to be put into it. That's what would have to happen to fix it. Now, that driver could go take some remedial English training or something like that to get himself up to speed enough that he could read and understand signs and talk proficiently enough. So, it's not like it bars you forever, but you're going to have to do something, to get yourself into a position where you can, and you should.
Has OOIDA got a handle on, or have any idea how many truck drivers this non-domiciled and English proficiency rule has taken out of the system?
No, and it's hard to say that. And
Yeah.
again,
I figured it
it's
was.
kind of like I say about the non. I've heard all kinds of numbers, and we know that I think the first time we ran, there was like 2,800 trucks put out of service in the first month or so, and I'm assuming that a lot of guys just quit or they're getting training. I'm hoping to think that carriers that hired some of these folks were smart enough to realize we got to get these guys out of our trucks. They're still being stopped. We still know people are being put out of service. FMCSA, DOT, they publish those numbers monthly and stuff. So those numbers are out there. You can find these numbers, of course. But, but to tell you exactly how many, I have no idea.
Well, I didn't figure you did, but I figured if enough of it, I mean, I know there's quite a few out there, it would make a dent into the availability of trucks out there, which would maybe increase, productivity with everybody else as far as the companies that are doing things right out here, and increase their freights. If you take some of that out of the system, it sure makes sense anyway.
Well, it sure does, and it can't hurt.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like this downturn we're in, we still have a lot of overcapacity from what we see. Whether you're for tariffs or against tariffs, uncertainty in the market, that makes it tough. You got people and companies and factories who are trying to buy and pre-buy and stuff like that. So they got to work around that kind of stuff. And again, whether you're for or against it, that's just the facts of the tariffs. And of course, we've had high inflation, we have high interest rates. So I think when you take all these things together, it's going to take a little bit of everything getting normalized and before we really start to see stuff. Our foundation here, they do lots of research and studies, mainly on the small business, of trucking and how small business, and they're not forecasting without something crazy happening. Anything can happen, but right now, probably second quarter of next year before we really start to see stuff turn around, maybe, which we all hope it's sooner than that, but barring nothing crazy. And Andrew, who does that, he's really pretty good at figuring those numbers and coming up with that stuff.
I want to backtrack just a little bit on what you said earlier to make sure I understand this on the non-domiciled. Is it each state is doing it different, or some are doing it right and some are not? Is that what you mean, Lewie?
Yeah, and I mean, some states I'd say are doing it right. Some states don't do it at all, which is probably really right. And then other states just sort of be all over the place. I mean, we've got some states where they've had 25, 30 driver's licenses all with the same address, same name. Now, somehow you think that would click in a computer or something, but, I guess a lot of governments are working on older stuff. And as we see whenever these, things roll out, kind of like our medical card being attached to your license, and how that was all supposed to roll out, no problems. And then all these state computers aren't talking to each other. So, technology isn't always as good as what we'd like to believe it is.
No, you're right, because we're seeing those problems too when it comes to that, the physicals,
right.
On the MVRs.
Oh, yeah. I've had lots of members call in where they're physical, they got put out of service because they're physical and they'd gotten their physical. And, I carry a paper one with you. Get a paper copy and have it in the truck.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it's been from day one since I've been in this business. Carry that copy with you, so you don't have to worry about technology failing you. So
exactly.
Central Arkansas Truck and Trailer strives to take care of our owner-operators as quickly and accurately as possible. As a family-owned and operated company, they understand and value the importance of relationships just like we do. That is why our owner-operators continue to return to their shop for service on their trucks. From DOT inspections to complete engine rebuilds, they provide all owner-operators with top-notch service. So the next time your truck needs a little TLC, give Central Arkansas Truck and Trailer a call at 501-568-2185 and let them know you heard it here on the Oakley Podcast. What do you need from our listeners?
Hey, first and foremost, of course, I'd love for you to be a member of OOIDA if you're not, and we were started by truckers. We're still ran by truckers to this day. You know, you can go to OOIDA.com. It's regularly $45 a year. If you say you watch this, you call into our membership department here at OOIDA, tell them you saw me on this, and I recommended you can get it for $25 for the year. Go. So, you know, pass that discount along. We've got lots of discount programs. You know, we got lots of things around here we do to help. Other benefits for small business carriers. We got a fuel card. We got a tire discount. Even if you're a driver, you can use that because it's for car tires even, not just your truck tires, farm tires, ag tires, all kinds of different tires. Lots of other discounts and stuff. But, you know, number one thing, if you're interested in this advocacy stuff, fightingfortruckers.com. And, you know, the next thing you can do is go to fightingfortruckers.com. Look at the stuff that we're working on. Reach out to your lawmaker. Tell them how things are affecting your business, good or bad. Be professional. Yeah. You know, I mean, grassroots is the way you move the needle if you're small. I mean, that's the way we move. We don't have the money if some of the people are competing, but we got the people. Yeah. And we got the members. So be active. And, you know, if you got a question or comment, if you're a member, not a member, you can always call me here at OOIDA. I'll answer the phone, or if I don't answer, I'll call you back. You know, we can talk about things if there's something you don't understand or, you know, whatever. Don't hesitate to reach out.
Yeah, but, it's for company drivers. It's for owner operators. I mean, do they have to have a CDL to join as a member? I can't remember if
I mean, you're supposed to have a CDL, but we have an associate type membership for folks who don't. Okay. So there is, if you don't have a CDL, you just want to support trucking, you know, we have spouse members and different stuff like that too.
Well, and that's kind of what I was thinking, you know, an owner that has trucks that might not be a truck driver, or, you know, office person, recruiters, you know, that are passionate about it, but don't have a CDL, but are involved, you know, I mean, the bottom line is get involved. You know, get involved of what's going on, and because, I mean, trucking's
a hard thing. It's a hard job, and you're out there making a living. You don't have time to go to DC and go to CBSA and all these different conferences that we go and try to support and stand up for small business trucking. Because, you know, it's crazy. Small business trucking makes up 96% of the industry, but they're forgotten about almost all the time. Yeah. Because they're out here working, keeping the world moving, is my opinion. Yeah. And so, but that's what we're here for. And, you know, we'd love to hear from you. Something we're not doing, call us. Something we could do better. Whatever, you know. We're always willing to talk. As you know, Jeremy, I appreciate coming on your show. Oh, yeah. And I, you know, trucking is a thankless job. And I appreciate OOIDA, just like Oakley Trucking. We appreciate what you truckers go through every day. As far as we're concerned, trucker appreciation is a year-long thing.
That's right.
And thank you for what you do.
Yeah, definitely. And that's, I mean, it's like being a member is like hiring Lewie to go to Congress for you. Go fight DC. Go, and I wouldn't want anybody else, Lewie. I don't want you doing it, man, for sure.
Well, I appreciate that, my friend.
Hey, better question is, are you a traditional turkey for Thanksgiving, or are you kind of ham, or you just have a fish fry?
Well, me personally, I'd probably just as soon eat steak or fish fry. But I mean, I'm a tradition. I guess we always have a traditional Thanksgiving. Yeah. I will tell you a funny story though. All right. Before I took this job, moved out here, of course, I'm from southeastern Ohio originally, and we used to have a big Thanksgiving deal there in Ohio, my girlfriend and I, and we'd bring my family, her family, some friends, and we just do it in the garage of my house, and my relatives, you know. And one year I had some cat or alligator in the freezer, so I deep fried my turkeys. So I thought, well, I'm gonna deep fry alligator too. So I did the turkeys and did the alligator. Well, I got a bunch of little. My cousins got kids, and they were real little at the time, like first, second grade, and you know, and of course, them kids just thought that was great, that alligator. So, well, the funny story is though, at Christmas, my cousin who has these kids, we always go to her house for Christmas Eve. So I'm over at Christmas Eve, and she's got this picture that her one son drew, Thanksgiving, all the people and all this stuff, and the turkey and all, you know, your normal stuff. And there's a little alligator down in the corner. And she said, my son got in trouble because of this alligator. And I'm like, what do you mean? She said, well, we went to parent teachers. And she said that he does real good, but he tells stories. And she said, what do you mean? And she goes, well, he said that you have alligator at Thanksgiving because I had him draw a picture when they come back after break of what their Thanksgiving dinner. And he drew this alligator. He kept telling me that you have. And I told him, no, you don't. You have turkey. And he just kept telling the story, And my cousin's like, well, that really isn't a story. If you knew my cousin, we go there and he does make alligators. So if you have something that's not traditional, make sure your kids' teachers know about it.
Yeah, right. That's a pretty good story, Louie. That's
good. Last year we did Thanksgiving and prime rib, so that was kind of nice.
Oh, nice.
Or turkey and prime rib.
Yeah. I love some good turkey and some good casseroles and dressing, and my wife makes the best, and I'm looking forward to that. We got my boys coming in, and his girlfriend from New York City, and
nice.
Yeah, gonna spend the whole weekend with us, and I got my aunt and uncle and cousin coming up from Louisiana, and so we're gonna have a good time, good crowd. And
that's good. Yeah, we're
eat good.
It's just us, and then my girlfriend's son and his fiance are coming from Ohio, and I think my sister is possibly coming from Texas, and her boyfriend. And there's some friends of ours locally. They're kind of like us. They don't have any family here, so they come over. They've come over every year, so it's nothing too big, but it's pretty informal. But I cook a turkey, and everybody brings some stuff. And Joe makes some cornbread stuffing, which I don't like regular stuffing, but I love some cornbread stuff.
Oh, well, that's good stuff there, Louie. Good, man. I appreciate it. Enjoy your Thanksgiving, man.
Yeah, too, and thanks to all the truckers. I hope y'all have a good, healthy, safe Thanksgiving. Y'all get home with your family where you need to be.
That's right. Thank you, Louie. Hey, I appreciate everybody listening to the Oakley Podcast, and man, happy Thanksgiving to you guys. I hope everybody is safe, gets home safe, enjoys the holiday, and whatever you decide to cook, enjoy it and have a good time, because that's what it's all about, is getting back and spending good time with your family. So appreciate everybody listening to the Oakley Podcast. We'll talk to you next week.